What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Eddie Knight. Welcome or welcome back to Nerdy Before It Was Cool, where we nerd out about TV and film, especially ones based on comic book characters. I'm sure you've probably heard of this big DC overhaul possibility. It's going to affect everything from the current cinematic universes to future movies that are going to come out, as well as things on the small screen like the Arrowverse. So I know there's a lot of people on my channel who don't really keep up with this behind the scenes stuff, and maybe you just care about the movies and if they're good or if they're bad. So before we get into what's going on, I want to talk a little bit about how we got here in the first place. If you already know or don't care about that part, feel free to use the timestamps down below. So there's been a few moments in recent history for DC that I've been like, yes, they're finally getting it together. Even though a lot of the films have been polarizing for a lot of the people in and outside of the nerd community, they have had some successes over the years. A lot of people really love that Joker movie from 2019. It grossed $1 billion even as a rated R film. I'm a little hit or miss on Aquaman, but that also grossed $1 billion. Wonder Woman in 2017 grossed $1 billion. Shazam was not as big of a financial success for DC, but on a $100 million budget, it pushed almost around $400 million and was a very big critical success for DC. I know people are pretty hit or miss on Batman vs Superman, but it pulled in high 800 million. So from 2016 to 2019 was a period that was pretty profitable for DC. On top of that, in 2018, they did one of my favorite moves that they have done in a long time, which was drop the DC Universe app, an app that had all kind of new and fresh projects like Titan, Harley Quinn, the animated series, Krypton, Swamp Thing, Stargirl. And on top of that, they had taken all of their classics like Batman, the animated series, and Justice League and all the other things and brought them into this DC Universe app. I signed up with no hesitation. It really seemed like DC was getting their stuff together, and then the pandemic hit. And Warner Brothers Media was going to be sold again. It was sold to AT&T. They took over everything. They cut a lot of employees. I don't know the exact number, but I know it was over 1,000. About 85% of those people were DC employees. Later in the pandemic, at least 800 more were let go for failure to get their vaccines. Warner Brothers was in a bit of a crisis mode, looking for a buyer for their CW network, which let's touch on that for a brief second. For you CW Arrowverse fans, there's not many Arrowverse shows left. Batwoman is hanging on by a thread. The writers have been petitioning on Twitter to get fans to kind of build this restore the Snyderverse type movement for Batwoman to get the producers and Warner Brothers to want to continue the show, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. They're probably going to cut their losses with that show. The Flash, well before today, was expected for a season 9, and now that season 9 is coming, but it has been drastically shortened, and it more than likely is going to be the final season. I do believe Grant Gustin is going to move on. Obviously, Arrow's over, Supergirl's ended. The only thing really left kicking in that universe is Superman and Lois. Also, the cast of Legends of Tomorrow have been trying to get funding for a new season of their show as well, and it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. But with that being said, you can kind of see how we got to the point where we are. That deal went through with Discovery, and that's where all these new changes are coming from. So let's go ahead and get into this article and see what they're actually saying about this possible overhaul and what it would mean for the future movies to come. So Zaslav is looking for what the article says is a Kevin Feige-like figure. And that's kind of the thing that people have been kind of running with so far is, oh, they're copying Marvel. I mean, not necessarily. Kevin Feige is a creative and he's doing a great job over at the MCU. But according to the article, it seems like Zaslav is actually looking for more of a business person, not necessarily a creative to oversee and be a part of every single project, because it looks like DC is really gonna be embracing this whole multiversal aspect. Because yeah, they do want a DC cinematic universe, but there's also gonna be a lot of little side pocket universes, which if you've ever read a comic from DC, this is nothing new. Some readers loved it, some readers hated it, and I would imagine that's how it's gonna be with the movies as well. like the universe helmed by Matt Reeves in the Batman universe, you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a Batman 2. I guarantee you they're going to continue this Gotham PD series. It's going to be focusing more on Gotham PD and Penguin. Some of these moves I'm very excited about, but others I'm not so excited about, like movies with the Wonder Twins. Another great thing we got from this interview is that Discovery, when they came in, they're really looking to focus on Superman, and that is a great thing. Superman may not be your favorite superhero. It goes Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. I think as far as comics and popularity goes, they're probably the top 3. So it should be no reason whatsoever that there hasn't been another Superman movie since 2013. And I love how they're going to actually hone in and focus on Superman. Now, the big question is, are they going to bring Henry Cavill back? Man of Steel is probably one of the most polarizing movies in comic book movie history to me. People either love this thing to death or they despise it. Me personally, I actually enjoyed Man of Steel a lot. I thought it was really good, and I thought Henry Cavill was great for the role. And the crazy thing is, even the people that didn't like Man of Steel really liked Henry Cavill as Superman. So I think it would be a good idea to bring Henry Cavill back. And if you want to go in a different direction, get a new director or whatever to direct the new movie. I think that would be a really great way to kind of appease with fans on both sides of the spectrum. I'm all for DC honing in on a new cinematic universe and all that. But honestly, when we look back over the last 10, 12 years, honestly, even 15, the most successful DC films have been the ones that kind of stand alone in their own universe. And I know everybody wants DC to get that cinematic universe right like Marvel, but do they really need to? I think where DC has kind of failed in the past is they've always jumped the gun a little too early. I think they should just really focus in on making good movies. And then if a universe springs off of that movie, then hey, so be it. Like whether we get a sequel to the Batman or not, which we definitely will, that movie would be just fine as a standalone movie. Yes, you want to think about the future. Yes, you want to think about possibilities of franchising, but just don't jump the gun so early. DC and Sony are kind of in the same boat. Sony is in way deeper waters when it comes to that boat, but they've been doing similar things for years. Make a decent first movie, get a little bit ahead of themselves on the second. It doesn't perform the way they want it to, and then they abandon and jump ship and reboot. So I think this is a good thing that DC is actually looking for someone with a lot of business savvy and foresight to be able to kind of hone in on all these things. There's been a lot of properties over the years that I think they've given up on a little too soon. Having somebody leading the ship who has a lot of business savvy, willing to take a few risks, and really understand the long game is going to do them so much good. But guys, I do believe this is going to be one of those situations that's going to get worse before it gets better. I think here for the next year or two, things are going to get really messy. There's going to be a lot of angry fans, and there's going to be a lot of people on the fence. But I think in a few years, if we just let things settle down and let things play out how they should play out, then I think they will actually start to get on track. But I would love to know what you think down in the comments.